As a programmer, we often find ourselves asking the same two questions over and over and over again. That is, how much time does this algorithm need to finish, and also how much space does this algorithm need for my computation? So, if your program takes a lifetime of the universe to finish, then it's no good. Similarly, if your program runs in constant time but requires a space equal to the sum of all the bytes of all the files on the internet, your algorithm is also useless. So just standardize a way of talking about how much time and how much space is required for an algorithm to run. Theoretical computer scientists have invented big O notation, amongst other things like big theta, big omega, and so on. But we are interested in big O because it tells us about the worst case. Big O notation only cares about the worst case. So if your algorithm sorts numbers, imagine the input is the worst possible arrangement of numbers for your particular sorting algorithm. Or, as a concrete example, suppose you have an unordered list of unique numbers and you're searching for the number 7 or the position where 7 occurs in your list. And the worst case isn't 1, 7, that is at the beginning, or in the middle of the list, it's 1, 7 is the very last element of the list. For that particular example, the time complexity would be linear with respect to the number of elements in the size view list, because you have to traverse every single element until you find 7. The same concept applies to space. You can just consider the worst possible amount of space your algorithm is going to need for that particular input. There's also the fact that big O really only cares about what happens when your input becomes arbitrarily large. We are not interested in what happens when the input is small. For this reason, you'll see that we ignore things like constants and multiplicative factors. So in our big O notation, you'll often see these coming up again. So to clarify one thing, when I say n is usually always want to be the input size coming into your algorithm. There's always going to be some limitation of size n. So constant time referred to as a 1 wrapped around a big O. If your algorithm case in logarithmic amount of time to finish, we say that's big O of a log event. If it's linear, then we just say n. If it takes like quadratic time or cubic time, then we say that's n raised to that power, it's exponential. Usually, this is going to be something like 2 to the n3, the n number be greater than 1 to the n. And then we also have n factorial. But we also have things in between. These like square root of n log of n to the 5th and so on. Actually, almost any mathematical expression containing n can be wrapped around a big O. And is big O notation valid? Now, we want to talk about some properties of big O. So to reiterate what we just saw in the last two slides, big O only really cares about what happens when input becomes really big. So we are not interested when n is small, only what happens when n goes to infinity. So this is how and why we get the first two properties. The first, that we can simply remove constant values added to our big O notation. Because if you're adding a constant to infinity, well, let's just infinity, or if you're multiplying a constant by infinity, yeah, that's still infinity. So we can ignore constants. But, of course, this is all theoretical. In the real world, if your constant is of size 2 billion, probably, that's going to have a substantial impact on the running time of your algorithm. However, let us look at a function f, which I've defined over some input size. And if f of n is 7 log of n cubed plus 15n squared plus 2n cubed plus 8, well, big O of f of n is just n cubed, because n cubed is the biggest, most dominant term in this function. Alright, now let's look at some concrete examples of how big O is used. So both of the following run in constant time with respect to the input size, and because they don't depend on n at all. So on the left, when we are just adding or doing some mathematical formula, yes, that's constant time. And on the right, okay, we are doing a loop, but the loop itself doesn't depend on n. So it runs also in a constant amount of time. So as our input size gets arbitrarily large, well, that loop is still going to run in the same amount of time regardless. Now let's look at a linear example. So both the following actually run in linear time with respect to the input size, and because we do a constant amount of work and times. So on the left, we are incrementing the counter AI by 1 each time. So f of n is and. Clearly, when we wrap this in a big O, get a big O of n. On the right, a little bit more complicated, we are not incrementing by 1, we are incrementing by 3, so we are going to finish that loop 3 times faster. So f of n is n over 3. So our second example is 2 algorithms that run in quadratic time. So the first one seems obvious, we do n work at times. So n times as big O of n squared. But observe the second one, I changed the 0 with an I. So pause the video and try to figure out maybe why that's big O of n squared. Okay, let's go over the solution. So first, just focus on the second loop. The first loop isn't as important. So since I go from 0 to n, the amount of looping done is going to be directly related to what AI is, and remember is changing from the outer loop. So if we fix AI to be 0, we do n work. We fix it 1, we do n minus 1 work. If we fix it 2, we do n minus 2 work, and etc. So the question then becomes, what is n plus n minus 1 plus n minus 2 plus n minus 3 and so on? Well, this is a well-known identity and turns out to be n times n plus 1 divided by 2. So if we wrap this in a big O, we split our equation, we can see that this is big O of n squared.